Now we want to take a look at sticky positioning and also using the z-index. That's going to come into play in this video. So what I want to do is I want to position this footer in a way that it kind of stays on the page. It doesn't get scrolled off of there. A sticky positioning causes the element to stay where it would normally be until the page is scrolled beyond the value that you set. So here I'm going to grab this footer. It's in this footer element, so we'll style that. So footer, and then position sticky. And then I'm going to go ahead and give that a top, a bottom, 0 pixels, and we'll keep everything else where it is. So now when I refresh the page, we're not seeing any changes here, but when I get to where I can scroll the page, I can see when I scroll this up, that footer stays there at the bottom. So if I wanted that to, for some reason, stay at the top, I could, let me copy this footer and I'll put one over here below my header just so that we can see this. That's not typically something you're going to be doing, having a footer at the top like that, but we can see, well, let me copy these paragraphs so that our page will scroll more. See, I'll put these below this footer so I know where they are to get rid of them. We'll refresh our page, and now our page is going to do a little more scrolling, and I can see when I scroll up, that footer gets stuck at the bottom. If I were to set this top value instead of the bottom value, when I save this and refresh it, when I scroll down, first of all, we can see that bottom footer is now below the page because that's not where the sticky was being set. But when I scroll up, when we get to a certain point, that is getting stuck there at the top because we're using that sticky positioning. So now let me take out these extra paragraphs and that extra footer that I put in. We just put those in to better demonstrate what happens. So we had a little bit more on our page. So now when I save this, and I'm going to go back to the bottom on this so that we can look at setting that z-index and what that is, what that does. So now I'm going to refresh my page. And because I set the positioning on this footer and I have the positioning set on this image here, that takes things out of the normal flow. And so instead of this image coming first and being on top, the browser is not sure which one needs to be on top of the other. So we can fix that by using a z-index. And you can set that with z-index. And then this is just going to be a number value. And if I put a z-index of 1 on this image, save this, now that image is going to have a higher z-index because we don't have a z-index set for this footer. So now we can see that this image is out in front of that footer. Now if I were to come in down here into the footer and give it a z-index of any number higher than 1, I can save this, and we can see that footer goes over that. So setting that z-index can be handy, and you can think of z as, on a graph, your x-axis is your left and right, your y-axis is your top and bottom, where the z-index is being stacked, so coming out from the screen. So wherever the bottom of the screen is, and then coming out from that is your z-index. It's kind of the third dimension on that chart, and you can think about it that way. So here I'm going to take that z-index off of that footer, and now I can see that is back there behind that image now. If I were to take this this image and give it a negative z-index and save this, now that image is back here completely behind everything else that didn't have one set. They all have a z-index of 0, but now I made this have a z-index less than 0. And you can do some stacking and overlapping and things with that, and depending on what it is you need to do, that can be kind of cool. You can get some cool effects with that, and some different looks kind of create a little bit of a 3D look to those pages. So if you need to, if something's overlapping wrong, try out that z-index. That may correct it. And remember, try out all these different positionings. You can make some kind of cool stuff happen, keeping them there. We can look at these socials. When I scroll, they're going back there behind my box. I could also give them a z-index to make them stay visible, where that's actually going to kind of get in the way of looking at some of these. So here, giving those a z-index of 2. Now when I refresh this, those are going to stay in front of that. That may or may not be considered getting in the way. I don't like putting things over the text that I want somebody to read. So that's not something that I would have on there normally, but you can see how that z-index works and that stacking of elements works.